They thought I was gone, but I was wide awake. Every beep, every lie, every footstep etched into me like scars. The hum of machines filled the room, steady, artificial, cruelly calm. I'd gotten used to it. The rhythmic chirp of the heart monitor, the hiss of oxygen, the occasional shuffle of rubber soles across tile. What I hadn't gotten used to was the sound of my son's voice. "Doctor says he won't make it through the week," he muttered, standing far too close to my bed. "We'll need the papers ready before then. I've got the revised will signed already." "Well, signed," he chuckled, and I felt my gut tighten beneath the blanket. That's my boy, my flesh and blood, planning to bury me and steal what I built before the dirt even touched the casket. His wife whispered something back. I couldn't make it out, but her laugh, sharp, nasal, like a hyena choking, carved into my ears. They thought I was dead weight, brain mush, a man hanging by wires. But I was still here, trapped inside my body, rage burning in every silent breath. I thought of Marjorie, my late wife. I thought of her wrinkled hand signing our final will, clear as day, her eyes filled with faith in our children. "Both children," she said. "It's their legacy together." And now her boy stood over me like a vulture. The door clicked. I heard them leave, footsteps soft, careless. No guilt, no grief, just strategy. I wanted to scream. Instead, I stayed still. Like I learned in the Marines, stillness is survival. You only move when it matters. The nurse came in next. Emma, kind, soft-spoken. I felt her adjusting the IV. "Good evening, Mr. Grant," she whispered, like maybe she believed I could hear. "Your daughter stopped by this morning. She cried for an hour. I think she misses you." I miss her too, but all I could do was blink, in my mind. The door shut again. Alone, I stared at the ceiling, white panels dull and shadowed. I let my thoughts wander to the house I built with my hands, to the trust Marjorie and I worked decades for. My son was going to walk into a lawyer's office next week and present a lie in my name, a forged will, a theft of legacy. And I had no voice to stop him. But I had one thing. Time. If you give a liar enough rope, he'll tie his own noose. My father used to say that. So I made a decision. I wouldn't fight just yet. I'd wait, watch, learn. I'd let them think I was brain dead, let them think they'd won. Because a man who's underestimated is a man who can move in the dark. I listened for days, took mental notes, dates, phrases, names. My son wasn't cautious, he was cocky. Every time he came into the room, he whispered schemes like I was a piece of furniture. And every time he spoke, I memorized. One night he brought a folder into the room. I heard it drop beside my bed. "Final copy," he whispered to his wife. "Same notary from the insurance fraud thing. He's solid. Doctor will confirm vegetative state next week. Once that's filed, the house is ours." "You idiot," I wanted to laugh. "You think forged ink erases real blood?" She ran her fingers across my blanket, right near my wrist. "He doesn't look like he's dying. He's done, just a sack of bones." They left the folder there. I smelled the fresh ink, cheap paper. Fraud has a scent. I burned it into my brain. That night, as the machines clicked and hissed, I swore I'd get it back. The house, the will, my name. And I'd do it without ever lifting a hand. I'd make them expose themselves. Because justice comes slow for men like me. But it comes. If someone's listening, don't let silence swallow your story. People like them count on you staying quiet. Don't. The hallway light flickered through the bottom of the door. My son's shadow passed once more. I didn't blink. I just waited. The worst kind of silence isn't empty. It's the kind filled with voices you used to trust. Her sniffles reached me before her footsteps. My daughter, quiet, careful, still clinging to hope. I heard the scrape of the chair as she sat beside me, the way her jacket rustled as she leaned in. "Dad, I don't know if you can hear me," she whispered, voice trembling like she was standing on a frozen lake. "But I'm here. I've been here every day." She always whispered like she was asking permission to speak. She shouldn't have had to. Her hand brushed mine, warm, shaky. "I know something's wrong. I don't believe what James is saying. About the will, about you." She paused, breath catching. "He won't let me see it, he says it. Taken care of. But Mom wouldn't have signed off on that." No, she wouldn't have. Because we wrote it together, 2 pens, same day, same lawyer. Everything split down the middle. That was the promise. "I miss you," she whispered. "If you're still in there, please come back, please." I wanted to squeeze her hand, just once, but I didn't. Not yet. I couldn't afford to break the illusion. Not while James still thought he had the upper hand. The door creaked open. Footsteps, confident, slower, heavier. My daughter's breath hitched. "Still here?" James asked, tone dripping with rehearsed charm. "Of course I am," she said, voice tightening. He sighed, loud enough to fill the room. "You really need to let this go, Aaron. Dad's not coming back. You're making this harder on yourself." Aaron stood. I could hear her jacket swish again. "Why can't I see the new will, James?" He laughed softly. "Because there is no new will, just the one that matters now." "Meaning the one you had drafted without telling me," she snapped. "That's slander," he replied coolly. "And frankly, I don't have time for drama. There's a notary coming tomorrow. Everything's in place." "Everything you think is in place, son. You're building your throne on sand." "You always wanted more than your half," Aaron said, bitterness finally rising. "You just never had the spine to admit it." "Oh, don't be naive," he scoffed. "Dad always wanted me to take over the house. You ran off to marry that music teacher and bake cupcakes in Oregon. I visited every holiday, every summer. You stopped calling him when Mom died." A pause, heavy. I heard paper rustling. "I'm filing for medical conservatorship," James said. "That means you don't get a vote. He's mine to manage now." "You smug bastard," Aaron hissed. "Watch your tone," he warned. "This isn't about you, it's about what's best for Dad." "No, James, it's about what's best for you. The inheritance, the house, control." I let the silence hang between them, using it to harden my resolve. "I'm calling a lawyer," Aaron said. "You won't get away with this." "You don't have the money for a fight," he said. "And even if you did, I already filed the paperwork." She stormed out. I heard her heels echo down the hall like gunshots. James leaned over me. His breath smelled like mint and ego. "You're not fooling anyone, old man," he muttered. "Even if you are in there, what are you gonna do? Blink me to death?" He laughed and walked out, papers rustling as he shoved them into his briefcase. I stared at the ceiling. "Marjorie," I tried. I raised him to be better than this, but he grew into something else, something cold. I remembered her last night alive, her hand in mine, voice shaking. Protect them both, no matter what. I had failed, but not for long. Because the will she signed with me still existed, in a metal box beneath a numbered key, untouched. I would protect Aaron, even if James had already thrown away his soul. If family is who stays when things fall apart, then maybe I only ever had one child. The room settled again, just machines and shadows. But inside me, a storm. You can smell betrayal before you see it. It stinks of cheap paper, wet ink, and the cologne of a liar who thinks he's already won. I heard him before I smelled it. Leather soles across linoleum, slow and smug. He always walked like he was about to accept an award. The folder made a soft slap against the side table. "There we go," James muttered under his breath. "Signed, sealed, and eventually delivered." He chuckled to himself. His fingers tapped the table rhythmically, 3 taps, like a drumline for the ego. "Notary'll stamp it this afternoon," he said, pulling the chair close. "Use the same guy from the long-term care transfer. He owes me a favor." I wanted to scream. Instead, I counted backward from 10 in my head and inhaled, slow, shallow, steady. Then it hit me. The smell. Fresh ink, not the kind from a ballpoint. This was thick, pungent stamp ink, probably used to fake the notary seal, mixed with cheap cologne and arrogance. My jaw clenched. "You know," he whispered, leaning in, "if you really are in there, this probably sucks for you. But what did you expect, huh?" He shifted in his seat. His elbow hit the bed. "You were always talking about honor, about fairness. But fairness doesn't pay mortgages, doesn't get you that lake house I've had my eye on." Lake house. My stomach twisted. "So here what we're gonna do, Dad," he said, pulling a pen from his jacket. I could hear the cap click. "This will says I get the house, the trust, the investments. Erin gets, I don't know, the piano. She never liked this place anyway." He paused and laughed again. "Had to practice your signature. Took a few tries, but I got it right in the end. Shaky old man style, real convincing. I taught you how to hold a pen, James, and now you use it like a knife." I remembered standing behind him at the kitchen table when he was 7, showing him how to loop the G in Grant. He cried when he couldn't get it right. I told him it was okay to fail, so long as he never cheated. He learned to fake success instead. "You'd be proud of me," he said now. "Took initiative, made moves, cleaned up that old will and built something smarter, leaner." Smarter, he said that like I was stupid for trusting him, for loving him. My silence was a shield, but every word he said dented it. "Anyway," he said, standing, "the notary'll stop by around 4, we'll call the doctor after that. By Friday you'll be legally gone, conservatorship locks in, I transfer the assets. Erin can't contest it, no lawyer will touch her case. Too clean." Too clean. No, James. It was too obvious. You left fingerprints all over this. Filing too early, timestamps that won't match, a signature that won't pass forensic analysis, a notary who owes you a favor. That's not clean. That's desperate. That's sloppy. The real will was safe, in a locked box under my name, the only access, my key, still hanging around my neck under the hospital gown, taped down, sealed in medical tape they hadn't bothered to check, because they thought I was already dead. He didn't see it, he never looked. I had the original. The real will. The one Marjorie and I signed together, in the presence of a legitimate notary, sealed and filed with a bank vault's cold, silent mouth. That document was my sword, and this paper he left beside my bed. That was his rope. Let a man write his own lies long enough, and he'll trip over every one of them. He left, whistling some tune like he'd just sealed a real estate deal. The scent of ink still lingered. So I lay still, and I memorized every word, every tick of his voice, every piece of evidence he handed me with a smile. Some men you trust with your life, some with your death. I heard the boots first, not the cheap polished kind my son wore to play respectable. These were scuffed, heavy, uneven, like someone who didn't care how loud he walked, because he had nothing to hide. Then the door clicked shut, silence. A chair scraped. Then, "Grant," a whisper low, thick with gravel, "you still in there, old man?" I almost smiled. "Henry." He leaned in close, breath like black coffee and unfiltered truth. "It's me, Henry, from the 4th. The smell of engine grease and stale tobacco filled my nose. He always smelled like the same damn garage. I hadn't heard his voice in years. "I know you're awake," he said under his breath. "I watched your fingers twitch when that snake of a son walked in last time." He paused. "You always twitched when you were mad." "Still do." He leaned in closer, his beard bristling against my cheek. "I saw James drive off just now, all smug, didn't wave. Same slick-back hair from high school, just more gel. Thought he was hot stuff back then, too." He shifted in the chair, creaking it loud just in case anyone walked by, playing casual. "I've been hearing things," he muttered. Aaron called me, said something's off, said James is pushing for power of attorney, said the will changed. I wanted to grab his hand and squeeze it. Instead, I just listened. She doesn't know what to do. Scared she's gonna lose the house, the trust, everything Marjorie fought for. So I got curious, pulled a favor, talked to Helen. The name dropped like a stone in my chest. Helen Porter, lawyer, tough as tank armor, once helped Marjorie draft the trust years back. She remembered you, Henry said she'd drop by quietly. He lowered his voice even more. But first, we gotta make sure the original will's still where you said it'd be. It's there, Henry, safe deposit box at First National, branch on Elm, box 217, key taped under my gown. He leaned in again. I know you can't talk, so I'm gonna say what I need to say. His voice cracked just a little. You pulled me out of a crater in '71, didn't leave me behind. You think I'm gonna let your son steal your legacy while you're locked inside your own skin? Hell no. He sat up straighter, cleared his throat. I'm heading to the bank tomorrow. Aaron's gonna stall James at the house. You'll be fine. He believed in me, still. A tear pricked the corner of my eye, just one. I felt it slip across my temple down into my ear. He saw it. Told you, he muttered, chuckling softly. You're in there. Then louder. All right, Grant. I'm gonna go grab a smoke and come back later with the football scores. He stood slow and steady. Gave my arm a firm squeeze. I got your 6. He walked out, boots trailing confidence down the hall. I stared up at the ceiling, a tremble in my chest. For the first time since this nightmare began, I didn't feel alone. When a man from the battlefield promises to cover your back, you believe him. No paperwork needed. The machines beeped softly beside me. Somewhere outside, I heard a nurse laugh. But inside, I was already moving. Not my body. My plan. The law's not about justice, it's about proof. And some people forget liars always leave a trail. I heard the door click soft as breath. Not like the nurses, not like James. This was someone trained to enter a room without being noticed. Footsteps measured flat-soled, no hesitation. A chair slid beside me. Then the smell of leather and perfume, not floral, not sweet, professional, clean, sharp. Mr. Grant, a woman's voice said, steady and clipped. Helen Porter, I handled the trust with your wife. Henry sent me. I kept my breathing even. My heart pounded like a warning bell in my ears. She leaned closer. If you're faking, she whispered, blink twice. I did, slow, deliberate. 1, 2. She didn't gasp, didn't recoil. She just nodded once, like a chess player confirming check. I knew it, she muttered. He's too cocky, never met a man that's smug without something to hide. She opened a legal pad, her pen clicking quietly. I can't help you publicly. Not yet, but I'm going to start digging, she said. Forged wills don't exist in a vacuum. Signatures have pressure patterns. Timestamps leave metadata. Notaries leave logs. She was already building the case, brick by brick. The minute he files it, she continued, we request a handwriting comparison. The old will still in your safe deposit box, I assume. Blink, blink. She smiled barely. Good, that document is your sword. His version, it's kindling. Her voice dropped. James filed for medical conservatorship. It hasn't been granted yet. That gives us time. She pulled something from her bag. I couldn't see it, but I heard the flick of paper, the edge of strategy. I've already contacted the notary office he claimed signed the new will. They haven't processed a document under your name in over a year. That's the first crack. My heart steadied. She paused. You're going to hear some things you won't like, but I need you to stay still. Reacting could blow this wide open. Can you do that? Blink, hold, blink. Good. She looked over her shoulder, then leaned in again. "You're not the first man whose family tried to bury him before he died," she said, "but you might be the first who beat them without saying a word." I felt something stir in my chest, a flicker of dignity rising from the ashes. She tapped her pen against the folder in her lap. "Your son left fingerprints on everything. His arrogance is a gift." She stood up, adjusted her coat. "I'll come back tomorrow, quietly. If you're still asleep, they won't suspect a thing." She paused at the door, turned just enough for me to hear her. "Don't die on me, Mr. Grant. I want to see the look on his face when we drop the hammer." Then she was gone. The door clicked shut, the machines hummed, and I was left with the taste of something I hadn't felt in weeks. Hope. A liar builds his future on a crooked foundation, but the truth is a wrecking ball. Outside I heard the murmur of nurses, the distant roll of wheels. Inside I waited. Not helpless, not hopeless, just ready. When you're locked in your own body, memory becomes the only place you're free. The beeping of the monitors faded. The stale hospital air, the antiseptic sting, it all dissolved. And in that quiet space behind my closed eyes she appeared. Marjorie. She was standing at the old oak table in our kitchen. Her hands trembled slightly as she picked up the pen. The sunlight from the window behind her caught in her silver blonde hair, haloing her in gold. "You sure we're doing this right?" she had asked, her voice thin but steady. I'd nodded, half to James, half to Aaron, no drama, no confusion. She smiled, sad but proud. "They may not see it now, but this trust, it's our legacy, not just money, our values." I remember how she took a deep breath and signed her name, slow, deliberate, like it meant something. Because it did. I watched her die 6 months later, liver failure, quiet. She held my hand even as her grip faded. "Promise me," she whispered, "you'll protect what we built." "I promise," I said. And now I was lying in a bed, pretending to be half dead, just to keep that promise. The memory shifted. I saw James at 14, bright, stubborn, asking to borrow the truck to take a girl to the movies. "No license, no keys," I'd told him, laughing. He sulked for 2 days, slammed doors, pouted at dinner. Marjorie just shook her head and smiled. "He's got your fire." Too much maybe, but none of the brakes. Then I saw Erin, small, serious, standing on tiptoes to place her hand over mine at the workbench. "Can I help, Daddy?" she asked. I let her sand the cedar box for Marjorie's birthday. She worked in silence for 10 minutes, tongue poking from the corner of her mouth like she was diffusing a bomb. She got splinters, cried, but finished it anyway. I still have that box, tucked away in my bedroom. Or had. God knows what James has done with the house now. A sound outside the door snapped me back. But it was James. It was my own heartbeat, pressing like a drumbeat inside my ears. "What happened to you, boy?" How did the kid who once cried when he stepped on his sister's music box become the man who forged my will? How did Erin, who stayed on the phone with her mother for hours through chemo, end up begging for crumbs while James stole everything in broad daylight? Because greed is quiet at first. It whispers. It tells you you're owed something for free. And James, he'd listened too closely. I remembered his smirk, standing over me with his wife, waving that folder like a prize turkey. "She gets the piano," he'd sneered. Like that would shut her up. Like that would satisfy the daughter who helped bathe her dying mother while he closed real estate deals 3 states away. No, that wasn't going to stand. Erin's tears weren't just grief. They were guilt. She blamed herself for not stopping this sooner. But I blamed me. I gave James too much leash. I thought if I kept leading by example, he'd follow. Instead, he learned how to walk over people quieter. But Helen was in play now. Henry was moving. The real will sat behind steel. I just had to hold the line. Stay still. Let them underestimate me. Let them forget what I used to be. They think age makes a man weaker, but it only makes his resolve heavier. The hallway outside remained quiet. But inside the storm gathered strength. The truth doesn't need to shout. It just needs a witness and something to remember it. I felt the shift under my thigh first, just a slight pressure, a hand. Calm and precise, sliding something small beneath the sheet. No words, just a soft brush against my skin and the gentle rustle of fabric. Helen. She leaned close, lips barely moving. Voice activated, she whispered. It'll record every word when they come back. Let them dig their own grave. She straightened, nodded once, and was gone before the air had time to notice. I waited. The hum of the IV drip, the muffled steps of nurses outside, the clock's slow tick-tick-tick on the wall, all faded into the background as I counted heartbeats. Then, the door opened. Loafers, leather, arrogance. My son. And her. She giggled as she walked in, then stopped short. It still smells like bleach and diapers in here. It's a hospital, Chelsea, James muttered. Not a damn spa. She scoffed. Well, it's depressing. You won't have to see it much longer. He stepped closer to the bed. I heard the folder hit the table again. Doctor says it's days now, maybe hours. Liver's failing or something, doesn't matter, he snorted. Soon as he croaks, the assets transfer. I've already got the realtor lined up. Croaks? Like I was a toad, not a man. He really gave everything to both of you, she asked, even after all you've done for him. Oh yeah, he was obsessed with fairness. He dropped his voice, which is why I fixed it. She gasped in mock scandal. You forged it. Forged is such a legal word, he laughed. Let's call it course correction. My pulse thudded in my ears. He doesn't even know we're moving to the lake house, she said. James chuckled. He doesn't know anything anymore. He's a shell. They say hearing's the last to go, but come on, look at him. I fought the urge to move. My hands twitched under the blanket just once. They didn't notice. I mean, really, she said, walking around the room. Why did he give Erin anything? She's a glorified piano teacher. Guilt, James replied. Mom always bobbied her, but it doesn't matter. Once the court finalizes the conservatorship, Erin can't contest anything. She's not on the paperwork. I made sure of that. Smart. No, he said, leaning down toward me. I could feel his breath, hot, sour, cocky. He was stupid, trusted me. Always thought I'd do the right thing in the end. Idiot. He laughed again. I let it burn through me like acid. Let it melt every warm memory I had of the boy I raised. Let it fuel the silence I needed to hold. The recorder, nestled just beneath my hip, heard everything. Every hissed word. Every insult. Every crime. Chelsea's voice dropped to a whisper. You sure the notary's clean? Yeah, he's retiring soon, doesn't care. Took the cash, stamped the thing, said good luck. He's done this before. I imagined Helen listening to this later, her face calm, her fingers steady as she wrote down every lie. James clapped his hands together. All right, let's go. I've got a call with the estate attorney at 5. They moved toward the door. Chelsea paused. Should we say goodbye? To what? He snorted. It's already mine. They left. The door closed. And the silence returned. But it wasn't empty anymore. It was full of proof. You don't need fists to fight a thief. You need patience and a way to make them speak. I didn't move, not even a blink. But in my chest, I could feel the shift. The tide turning. The louder a liar speaks, the closer he is to unraveling. He stormed into the room like he owned it, his voice slicing through the sterile calm. Where the hell is her chart? James barked at a nurse in the hallway. My father's condition is critical, and you people can't even keep paperwork straight. The nurse mumbled something about shift changes. He didn't listen. He never listened. You'd think a hospital charging 25 grand a week could manage a clipboard. Inside, I kept my eyes closed, still, small, listening. Chelsea followed him in, arms crossed, voice low. You're getting reckless. Reckless, he hissed, dropping his briefcase beside my bed. Do you think this all just happens on its own? You threatened to nurse James. He scoffed. It's called pressure. No, it's called stupid, she snapped. People remember threats, especially when you're in charge of a dying man's estate. I am the estate, he muttered. I'm the only one who planned ahead. You planned ahead, all right, just not for the cleanup. He sat down hard, the chair squealing in protest. Erin came in 5 minutes later. She didn't speak, just stood in the doorway with her arms folded, eyes sharp. Oh, here we go, James sighed. Another melodramatic check-in from the piano teacher. Your notary called my friend at the courthouse, Erin said. Said you rushed the paperwork, wouldn't leave a copy, didn't even wait for the ledger's signature. Chelsea paled. James's jaw clenched. Stay out of this, he snapped. I'm already in it, she shot back. Because Mom didn't write me out, and Dad sure as hell didn't either. You have no proof, he growled. She took a step closer. Not yet. Chelsea tugged at James's sleeve. She's going to start asking questions. What if the recorder? He yanked his arm away. There's no recorder. The man can't even blink on command. He twitched last time, she whispered. What if he heard? James stood, voice sharp. He's a vegetable, you think this. Corpse is gonna testify. Erin's voice cracked. You're disgusting. He turned on her. You think I wanted to do this? You think I woke up one day and said, hey, let me scam my own dad? No, but he made it easy. That line hung in the room. Even Chelsea looked down. James raked a hand through his hair. I'm not the villain here, he muttered. I'm the one who stepped up, the one who took action. Yeah, Erin whispered, and you'll be the one who falls. She left. Chelsea sat down beside the bed, hands folded, eyes darting to mine. Maybe we shouldn't go through with it. James glared at her, too late. He's still breathing, James. What if he wakes up? He won't. But what if he does? I stayed still, silent. But inside I smiled. You're cracking, boy. You're slipping. Helen would love this audio. Every ounce of panic, every whisper of doubt. James sighed, rubbing his temples. I'll fix it. I just need the judge to sign off. Once the conservatorship goes through, it's over. He's mine legally. Chelsea didn't respond. She just stared at the floor. He stood and walked out, muttering under his breath. The door clicked shut. Chelsea looked at me. Really looked. And for a moment I thought she saw me, not the vegetable, not the problem, but the man behind the silence. She opened her mouth, then closed it again and followed him. They're starting to hear the echoes of their own lies. That's how collapse begins, first in whispers, then in court. I let the quiet settle again. The time was close. Close enough I could feel it humming beneath my skin. Not long now. You can fake a smile, you can forge a name, but you can't rewrite what's locked in steel. The door creaked open mid-morning. No fanfare, no arrogance, just slow, worn footsteps and the scent of motor oil and leather. Henry. He cleared his throat like gravel grinding in a tin can. Morning, Marine. I didn't move, but my pulse kicked, hard. He pulled the chair close, metal legs scraping tile. Went a First National yesterday, he whispered. Vault access was clean, ID matched, signature matched, key still worked like you said. I closed my eyes tighter. Thank God. They even still had the digital log. You hadn't opened the box in over a year. No one else even tried. He chuckled. Kinda funny. James is out there playing Monopoly, and you're sitting on the real deed like a damn chess master. I felt the tension I'd held for weeks loosen by a hair. Henry leaned forward. The will's in there, signed, stamped, notarized, dates match the original filings from Porter's office. I took high-res scans, Helen's reviewing now, papers aged just enough to show authenticity. He patted the bed rail. You did it right, and because of that, we've got him. He paused, voice lower. Most guys our age, they get buried before the truth sees daylight. But you're about to walk into court with a sword made of paper. A breath caught in my throat. Marjorie's handwriting was in that vault. The same delicate loop in her name, the one she practiced over and over because her hands shook too much near the end. It was still there. Still ours. Still real. They hadn't erased her. They hadn't erased me. Henry sighed. Your daughter been holding it together. I told her we're close. She's ready. A nurse walked past the door, chatting about her lunch. Henry leaned back, quiet, until the voices faded. James doesn't know it's over yet, he said. He's filing for court approval next Monday. Helen's planning to let him present the forged will, and then bury him with the real one. My hands twitched under the blanket. Yeah, he said, seeing it. That's what I thought. He pulled something from his coat pocket. Paper. I wrote you a letter, he said. In case anything goes sideways, told the truth. Signed and notarized it. You saved my life in Nam. Least I can do is help you save your name. He placed the envelope under my pillow. I swallowed hard. My throat burned from silence, but my mind screamed thank you. Tomorrow, he whispered, Helen will come in. We're gonna prep. Might be time to start waking up. I wasn't ready to forgive, but I was ready to rise. He stood slowly, stretching with a groan. One last thing, he added, voice rough. You should know. Your daughter's not just hanging on, she's fighting, smart, fierce, reminds me of Marjorie. I wanted to see her, just once, just to look her in the eye and let her know I was still here. She told me, he said, pausing at the door, if this goes to hell she'd fight alone, but she hopes you're still in there. You'll see me soon, baby girl. Henry gave me a little salute, the kind you only give a man who's been through hell and still has one bullet left. Then he walked out. That vault didn't just hold documents, it held the truth, and the truth doesn't die in silence. The machines kept beeping. The ceiling kept starring. But inside me, something had shifted. Not just hope. Readiness. Justice doesn't come like thunder. It builds slow, quiet as rain, until the roof gives out. The lights were dimmed when she slipped in. Helen moved like a shadow with purpose, her heels silent, her breath steady. She sat without a word, flipped open her folder and leaned in. It's almost time, she whispered. I kept still, barely breathing. I've got everything, she said, laying papers across her lap like playing cards. Affidavits from the original notary, time-stamped logs from the bank vault, digital scan reports showing ink degradation on the forged version. All admissible. She shifted, voice lower. The handwriting analyst confirmed what we already knew. The forged signature, yours, matches a sample from a car loan James signed 10 years ago. She smiled, small, razor-sharp. He traced his own damn pen stroke. You can't make this stuff up. I wanted to laugh. My chest itched from the restraint. Helen leaned in again, her breath warm near my ear. Probate hearings Monday. He filed last night, all proud of himself. She opened her phone. I heard a soft chime as she tapped. This is a clip from your room, the one where he called you a shell and bragged about the notary. A moment passed. I heard James's voice crackle through a recording. He's done. Once he croaks, the house is ours. I had the notary stamp it blind. She stopped it. I've got 12 hours of this. Him and Chelsea treating you like roadkill. I felt heat rise in my chest. Not from rage this time, but the slow flicker of retribution. The kind that burns cleaner than fire. "Erin's in," she said. "She'll testify. Henry too. He's submitting his statement tomorrow, along with access logs from the vault and the sworn confirmation of the original key." She stood and began packing slowly beside me. "The judge is strict, clean record, no tolerance for fraud." She stopped at the foot of my bed. "You won't have to do anything, Mr. Grant. Just let them walk into their own trap. Let them smile, present the forged will like it's gospel. Then we show them the real one." She leaned down again. "They'll crumble, and they'll do it in front of the same court they tried to weaponize against you." I could almost see it. James standing there, sweating through his suit, papers shaking in his hands. Chelsea shrinking beside him, eyes darting. The moment the judge realizes the truth, the silence, the collapse. My fingers twitched. Helen saw it. She smiled again, softer this time. "I hope you're awake for it. I really do. You deserve to watch his mask fall." "You're damn right I do." My chest ached with the pressure of held-in laughter. The kind that builds from knowing a storm is coming, and you're not the one standing in the rain. Helen slid everything back into her bag, zipped it quietly. "You won't have to wait much longer," she said. "And when this is over, Erin wants to bring you home." Home. That word struck deeper than any betrayal. I hadn't let myself hope for that part. Not since James took my keys, changed the locks, and whispered to Chelsea that he'll never set foot in that place again. But I would. On my feet with my name. Because the truth wasn't just coming. It was already here, dressed in affidavits, audio, timestamps, and a lawyer who didn't flinch when men like James raised their voices. Helen turned at the door. "You did good by Marjorie," she said, "and by Erin, just hold on a little longer." She was gone. I stared at the ceiling, tears prickling behind my eyes. I didn't want revenge. I wanted remembrance and dignity, and to look my daughter in the eye without shame. The storm was close now. I could feel it in the stillness. And I was ready to rise. When you come back from the dead, people don't rejoice, they reposition. It happened slow. By design. A flutter of the eyelid. A subtle shift in my breathing. A sigh that came out louder than it should have. Nurses noticed first. "Mr. Grant," one gasped. He moved. Another leaned in, called my name, her hand gently tapping my cheek. I blinked again, slower this time, deliberate. My lips parted, dry, cracked. They cheered like I'd scored a touchdown. Nurses ran in and out. Calls were made. Machines recalibrated. The doctor's shoes clicked in 5 minutes later. I turned my head just slightly, enough to see light instead of ceiling. My jaw twitched, then. "Water," I croaked. "It scraped like gravel." "Yes, of course," a nurse said quickly, tears welling in her eyes. "You're okay, you're okay." The doctor checked my pupils, my reflexes, his hands moving with clinical speed. "He's conscious, weak but responsive." I nodded barely. Then the door slammed open. "Dad." "James." Fake concern dripping off his voice like cheap syrup. "You're awake? Jesus, I can't believe it." He rushed to the side of the bed, grabbed my hand like a politician kissing Bobby's. "I knew it," he said loudly. "I told them, I said he was strong." The nurses stepped aside. His grip tightened for a second. I didn't return it. I turned my head slowly, deliberately, to the other side of the bed. "Where Erin?" I rasped. James froze. "Oh, she's not here right now. I called her." He blinked. "Sure, I will, just you should rest first. Let the doctors." "Now." His eyes darted to the nurses. He forced a smile. "Of course, Dad." He stepped out of the room with his phone pressed to his ear, voice clipped and low. The nurse leaned over me again. Is there anything else we can do for you, Mr. Grant? I nodded. Chair. She wheeled one in and parked it by the bed. I reached out slow, shaking toward it, toward the left armrest. They didn't know why. But I did. That chair had been Aaron's. Always on my left. Always steady. Always waiting. I waited. 10 minutes later, Aaron burst through the door, breathless. Her eyes found mine, wide and shining. Dad, she whispered. I raised my hand, barely, and opened my palm toward her. She came immediately, dropped to her knees beside the bed, and took it in both of hers. I exhaled. James lingered by the doorway. Watching. Calculating. I didn't look at him. Didn't speak to him. Didn't acknowledge him. Everything I needed to say, I said by choosing which child to reach for. Aaron cried quietly against my arm. Hey, I said, voice still raw, you held on. She laughed through her tears. Of course I did. She wiped her face, looked up. I knew you weren't gone. I gave her hand a weak squeeze. James cleared his throat. I'm gonna let you two talk, give you space. He slipped out without another word. For the first time in weeks, I felt something real wash over me. Not just life. Control. They thought I was powerless, but they forgot silence isn't surrender, it's strategy. The machines beeped steady and soft beside me. But inside, the tide had turned. The closer a man gets to losing everything he stole, the louder he scrambles to pretend it was always his. James stopped showing up with flowers. He stopped pretending to care. Now he barked into phones in the hallway, slammed doors when he thought no one was watching. Nurses began whispering. His smile had vanished, replaced with clipped words and forced charm that cracked around the edges. Helen visited the day after I woke. She stood at the foot of my bed, voice low and measured. He's panicking, she said. He's trying to move the forgery through probate faster, but in doing so, he's unraveling. She opened her briefcase. This morning, she continued, he emailed the notary offering him double what he was paid if he adjusts his statements. He's leaving a trail so wide you could drive a hearse through it. I would have chuckled if my throat didn't still feel like sandpaper. Helen handed a paper to Aaron, who stood beside her. Aaron read it, lips pressed tight. He threatened Henry, she said. Helen nodded, told him to back off or else. What he didn't realize is that Henry recorded the entire call. Aaron glanced at me, her hand tightening around mine. He's scared, Dad, she said, really scared. Good. Desperate men make mistakes, and James was making them by the hour. Helen pulled out another page. This is a printed log of James's visit to the notary office. According to the staff, he was alone. No attorney, no witness, no proper ID confirmation. She turned it toward me. It proves the will he submitted doesn't meet state requirements. No witness, no validation. It's not just fake, it's invalid. Aaron sat beside me, eyes brimming. He's going to lose everything. No, he's going to be exposed. Henry arrived later that day. He walked in with his usual uneven stride and leaned on the edge of the bed. Kid tried to threaten me, he said. Can you believe that? After all the crap I've seen, James Grant thinks he can scare me with a lawyer's letter and some vague threats. He laughed deep and gravelly. Man's swinging blind now, he added. Punched a wall at the bank when they wouldn't let him access your safety box. I was standing 10 feet away. You should have seen the look on his face. I squeezed his hand just once. He looked down, eyes softening. You're almost there, Grant. Monday, they step into court thinking they've already won. And then... He tapped my chest. Boom. Helen returned in the evening, this time with a flash drive. Every voicemail, every email, every signature analysis. It's all on here, she said. and I filed a request with the court to delay approval of the forged will pending fraud review. She looked me dead in the eye. Once the judge sees what we have, James is done. I wanted to say thank you, to her, to Henry, to Aaron. Instead, I just looked at each of them, one at a time. And they knew. Helen adjusted her bag, gave a tight smile. Get some rest, Mr. Grant. You've done your part, now it's ours. As they filed out, James walked past them in the hallway, fake smiling, nodding like he hadn't tried to gut his own blood. He walked in seconds later. Hey, he said, voice flat, you're looking better. I didn't answer. He shifted uncomfortably. Listen, about the estate stuff, some people have been saying things. Aaron been confused. You've been sick. Things got complicated. Say less, son. The more you talk, the deeper the hole gets. I just want what's fair, he added. Fair? I blinked slow, then looked away. That was enough. He stood there a beat too long, then left. Desperation makes a man loud, but truth waits in silence until the hammer drops. And it was about to drop. Hard. Public humiliation doesn't sound like a crash. It sounds like silence after too much noise. The courtroom was cold, clean, buzzing like a storm was about to break. I sat in a wheelchair by the front row, thin blanket over my legs. Aaron beside me, hands folded tight. Helen stood near the bench, file clutched like a blade she couldn't wait to swing. James walked in like he'd already won. Charcoal suit, gold watch, briefcase swinging like a trophy. He didn't even look at me. Didn't nod. Just gave a rehearsed smile to the clerk, then kissed Chelsea on the cheek like they were posing for a campaign photo. The judge entered. Everyone stood. I gripped the armrest as I rose slowly, deliberately. My knees shook, but I stood. James saw it. And for a flicker, he hesitated. The judge nodded. Please be seated. We sat. James stood immediately. Your Honor, he began, voice syrupy. My name is James Grant, son of the petitioner. Due to my father's incapacitation, I've assumed responsibility for all estate matters, including this revised will. He opened his briefcase with a flourish and removed the document like he was unveiling treasure. He handed it to the clerk. It reflects my father's most recent intentions, given his deteriorating state and updated conversations prior to his hospitalization. Helen didn't move. Not yet. The judge skimmed it, eyes flickering. Filed on July 12, she said. No witness signatures, notary seal appears smudged. James cleared his throat. The notary had poor ink. We can provide a statement. The judge looked unimpressed. Helen rose. Your Honor, I'm Helen Porter, legal counsel for the Grant family, specifically for Mr. Grant himself. I represent his living, competent interests. James blinked. He's barely able to stand. The judge raised a hand. I'll decide competency after reviewing all materials, Mr. Grant. Ms. Porter. Helen stepped forward, her voice measured and sharp. I submit into evidence the original will, dated 16 months prior, notarized and signed in front of 2 witnesses. Document retrieved from a federally insured safe deposit box under exclusive access by the petitioner. Bank access logs and matching signatures are included. The clerk accepted it. The judge raised an eyebrow. James laughed too loud. That will's outdated. My father changed his mind. Helen didn't flinch. He did not, but you did in a forgery. She handed a flash drive to the clerk. On this are voice recordings of Mr. Grant and Ms. Chelsea Nichols discussing the false notary, the forged signature, and their intent to suppress the original will. The judge nodded to the bailiff. James shot up. This is ridiculous. The judge cut him off. You'll sit until you're asked to speak. He sat. Hard. The room had gone still. The judge played the clip. Once he croaks, the house is ours. I had the notary stamp it blind. Then silence. Then gasps. Chelsea's hand slipped from his. She shifted her chair away like he'd spilled something foul on her lap. Helen didn't gloat, she just stood firm. Your Honor, I also have an affidavit from the original notary of the forged will, stating under oath that the signature was not witnessed, and that payment was made in cash, off the books. The judge leaned back. I've heard enough. James opened his mouth. Do not speak, the judge said coldly. You may face charges beyond this hearing. Erin reached over and placed her hand gently on mine. For the first time in months, I felt the weight lift. James looked at me. No anger, just disbelief. Like he couldn't fathom that the old man still had something left. I didn't blink. Didn't smile. Didn't need to. The moment a liar is seen for what he is, the silence becomes heavier than any verdict. The judge turned to the clerk. Enter the original will into record. The forged copy is dismissed with prejudice. She banged the gavel. James buried his face in his hands. And the room moved on without him. A man doesn't fall all at once. He breaks in pieces, each one sharper than the last. James sat slumped at the defendant's table, his eyes flicking between the judge and Helen like he still had a move left. He didn't. Chelsea had moved 2 seats away from him now, arms crossed, face pale. When the judge asked her to speak, she cleared her throat and leaned into the mic. I didn't know it was forged, she said, voice flat. James handled everything, I trusted him. He turned to her, mouth twitching. Chelsea. I didn't know, she snapped louder now. You told me it was real, that your father had changed it. The judge raised her brow. So you participated in transferring estate assets under the assumption this document was valid. Chelsea nodded slowly. Yes, but I only signed where he told me. He said the notary would take care of the rest. Did you verify the notary's presence? No, she whispered. The judge leaned forward, her voice now sharp as a blade. So, either you lied then or you're lying now. Chelsea shrank into her seat, eyes glassy. Helen stood. Your Honor, we're prepared to file a motion to investigate perjury and attempted fraud. The judge nodded. Granted, proceedings will be reviewed by the district attorney's office. James's hands balled into fists on the table. His knuckles went white. Then the judge turned to him. Mr. Grant, she began, her tone shifting from judicial to disgusted. You attempted to defraud this court, your own sister and your father, who, against all odds, sits in this room, by fabricating a legal document. You lied to banks. You bribed a notary. You manipulated hospital staff. James opened his mouth to speak. Silence. Her voice cracked through the air like a whip. This was not just a crime of greed. This was a theft of legacy, of memory, of dignity. Erin squeezed my hand. I felt her sob against my shoulder, quiet, relieved, almost like an exhale she'd been holding for months. James looked at me. Not with hate, not even with regret. With nothing. Hollow. Like all the lies had hollowed him out, and he was just realizing he was empty. I did, he tried. Save it, the judge said. You had choices, you chose theft, you chose lies. He lowered his head, mouth dry, words gone. The court murmured. One reporter scribbled furiously in a notepad. Another snapped a photo of James's bowed head. Helen stood once more. We request immediate restoration of the estate in accordance with the original will. Granted, the judge said, filed and enforced today. I closed my eyes for one long second. The weight left my chest. When I opened them, James was still frozen in place, fists clenched, shoulders hunched, the tie around his neck suddenly too tight. Chelsea stood up and walked away from him without a word. Erin leaned closer. "It's over," she whispered. I nodded. Slow. He built his throne on paper lies, and paper burns fast. Helen packed her files. Henry gave me a little nod from the back of the room. But I only looked at James. Because that silence, the one where he had no one left to blame, was louder than any punishment the law could give. That silence was my justice. Not every war ends with a flag raised. Some end with a man on a porch, breathing free. The creak of the rocking chair beneath me was steady, patient, like it knew I had nowhere else to be. The porch hadn't changed. Same cracked boards, same rusted nail heads poking up like little teeth. The railing leaned a bit to the right. I'd fix it eventually. Maybe. Or maybe I'd let it lean, like me. The autumn wind drifted across the yard, carrying that dry leaf smell, earthy, faint, honest. For the first time in months, I could smell something without being reminded of antiseptic and betrayal. Erin brought out 2 cups of tea and set one gently beside me. "Still take it with honey?" she asked. I nodded. She sat on the top step, pulling her sweater tight around her arms. "Henry called this morning," she said. "Said he's thinking of moving south, tired of winters." "He earned that," I rasped. She smiled. We sat in silence, not awkward, just earned. The house behind us was still ours, still standing, still filled with pictures James would have sold and furniture he would have tossed in a second-hand store just to make room for his ego. Now it belonged to memory, and to the one child who stood beside it instead of over it. I looked down at the tea, steam rising, swirling like smoke off a fire that had finally died out. "Do you ever think about him?" Erin asked. "Every day." She didn't say anything more. I didn't need her to. He didn't just steal papers. He tried to erase me, erase us. But justice doesn't heal everything, it just stops the bleeding. The papers were all filed now. Probate closed. The original will reinstated. Fraud charges pending against James, though I didn't press criminal charges myself. Helen respected that decision. "I don't want to bury him," I'd told her. "Just stop him from digging up what doesn't belong to him." I hadn't seen him since court. He hadn't called. I doubted he ever would again. His absence wasn't a relief, but it was a boundary. And boundaries protect peace. Erin turned her face to the wind. Her eyes were red, but she wasn't crying. "You look more like her every day," I said softly. She smiled again, smaller this time. "I hear her sometimes," she whispered. "In the kitchen, when I'm tired, I hear her humming." I closed my eyes. I could still see Marjorie in her garden, sleeves rolled up, straw hat low, humming that damn folk tune she never remembered the words to. "I kept her scarf," Erin said, "the blue one." "She wore it the day we signed the will," I murmured. Erin's breath hitched. "She made me promise," I added, "that you'd never be forgotten." Erin stood, walked over, and knelt beside the chair. Her hand found mine. "You kept that promise, Dad." I looked out across the yard. Leaves scattered in the wind, swirling then settling. My family didn't survive intact, but the truth did, and maybe that's enough. The sun was dipping lower now, slicing gold across the horizon. I lifted my cup, sipped slowly. Warm, bitter, just right. Erin rested her head against my arm. "We didn't speak. Didn't need to. Some endings don't ask for applause. Just a deep breath, and no one left to prove anything to." "Marjorie," I whispered to the wind, "it's done." The porch groaned, the wind moved, and for the first time in a long while I let the silence stay.